I would argue, though, that overspending might be trumping that, actually, and it's just not thought of in the same way. But what's happening, though, back to this brain, with this pink area, all the dopamine's being pumped up to that. It's leaving the reward system lacking of dopamine. So your teenager is trying to stimulate their own reward system in a variety of ways. This might be driving recklessly, using drugs, overspending. This sort of risky behavior that we see is partly related to that, sort of that chemical disruption in the brain. Any questions so far? Yeah.
I guess I need to take a step back. What
Sure.
is the function of dopamine?
So dopamine, it's used in this case. It has many functions. It's a neurochemical. In this case, it's used when you're rebuilding sort of this area of the brain. It's the way I would explain it is being pumped into sort of the same way like if you're working out heavily, your endorphins sort of take over your system. It's a similar kind of thing. It's a neurochemical that's pumped into this part of the brain that's highly in use right now.
So after like 20 or 21, the dopamine sort of subsides?
Maybe I would go so far as to say like 20, 28, 26. It changes though, because for instance, if you have a 17-year-old, you might see a very different type of behavior in a 23-year-old. But I think that they can slip right back into that. It's not fully developed yet. And that's another, I think that's why it makes this so important, because when they go off to college, they really aren't fully developed. They're not able to, they're still going to rely on you as parents for that help with making a good decision, good judgment. Does that make sense? Okay. The other, I'm sure you guys know about this, phase of development, identity is determined by peer connection, basically. I mean, they're fitting in to a peer group. That's probably the most important thing during adolescence. They want to find their own way. They want to test and experiment on their own. And they develop an identity that's not necessarily, at this point, modeled after parental values or family values, but it's modeled after peer values. They want acceptance from the peer group, probably more than anything. And they want to be separate and independent. So given that, so I'm going to refer back to this, but that's just sort of a little bit of background on development and neurobiological perspective. But with teenagers, there are certain thematic messages that go right in line with their stage of development, their stage of neurodevelopment. Anti-adultism is a really common theme. I don't know if you guys know this. No, I can't get it. It's a video game. The website for the video game is yourmomhatesthis.com, I think it is. It's a commercial where the mom is offended by, how many of you have seen it? No, you have. The mom's it's a variety of parents who are offended by the video game. So it's sort of marketing on that theme, that the child is wanting to be separate from the adult. So they're using this sort of an anti-adultism to sort of spark that interest. Fitting in, this is the iPhone commercial. I think the slogan on this one is, if you don't have an iPhone, you don't have an iPhone. I think it's, a lot of the messages that they're receiving is if you don't have this product, you're a loser. If you don't have an iPhone, you don't fit in. If you don't have this, that's really what the marketers are pushing. That's what the advertisers are pushing. If you don't have this, you're not in this exclusive group, and you're not going to succeed. Is really what's, I think, part of the message. Yes.
One of the problems, my daughter went to Westwood High, and I have to say one of the problems was that she didn't have us.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, the girls there taunted her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't just the ads, forget the ads. As a parent, I could handle the ads and the TV, but if you go, these kids at the high schools, they're vicious.
Yeah.
So it's like almost, and if the parents all don't get together and say it's okay to wear Uggs from Costco,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay not to wear a True Religion jeans, but the kids are truly wretched on each other
Mm-hmm.
for not having these name brands, the newest phone, if it's the Droid, whatever, and it's the parents who, even though the advertisements may come to the kids, and the kids can ask, but we as parents, if we don't go to our kids and say, it doesn't make who you are, once they go, if we do our job saying the shoes don't make you, the phone doesn't make you successful, they go to school and they are completely taunted, tortured,
Yeah.
and bullied.
Mm-hmm. And or on Facebook.
And it's horrible.
Or on, yeah,
And schools do nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
They say it's not a school problem.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have, what's your name?
Deanna.
Deanna, does anyone have similar
It's
experience?
more of a girl thing. I had boys that go to Westlake, nothing, it was totally a different environment for my son. But it was a girl thing.
Mm-hmm.
She
Yeah.
went to school.
Uh-huh.
It was not, the schools don't address these issues of the materialistic society. And if you say, the girls are mean, they don't. Yeah, I think the teachers are very used to it.
Right, right. I mean, it really is a,
Mean girl environment.
mm-hmm. It's that, and it's it's something that people sort of don't want to talk about. I think, though, as parents, that's where really the value of, what are the values of owning Uggs? And that's what's important to, they're getting our kids at such a young age. They've been bred sort of to say these are the values are that I am what I own. If I own something of high expense, then I'm exclusive and I'm better than somebody else.
Well, I've said to my husband, the worst enemies I have are not my kids' friends, it's my kids' parents' friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's the parents of their friends,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what they're indulging their child of getting the new phone,
Mm-hmm.
standing in line overnight for a video game.
Right.
Child, I mean, I have so many, my son's friends, parents will sit overnight and count out for their child to get a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, are you crazy?
Yeah. I'm going to talk more about how do we address just head on this issue. How do we start talking to our kids, and maybe we can have a discussion about it too. I think that with Facebook in particular, and with technology, it's furthering what was, we all had probably some peer pressure growing up in school. And some, and this is not a new thing. There's always been some exclusivity with owning some product or owning something that someone else doesn't have. But I think that it's been pushed so far today that it's just our kids and our teens are under a lot of pressure. With Facebook, I heard a stat today on the news. Actually, I think 7 million underage, I think you have to be, 13 to be on Facebook? 7 million underage kids are on Facebook right now. And I would think it's probably greater than that. And it's sort of a bombardment. I mean, that's what Fred Rogers used to call this, a bombardment of, his show would come on, he'd say it's a break from the bombardment. And I think